to our final conversation for today. We are joined by representatives of the Belize Hospice and Palliative Care Foundation. We have with us Dr. Ramon Yacab, who is the Vice President and a volunteer, and Ms. Janet Cutkelvin, who is the Operations Manager, also a volunteer. And we're talking about palliative care as the world celebrates World Palliative Care Day on October 10th. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you guys for joining us and telling us all about the work that you do. Let's just start off by finding out how long this group has been running and how many of you are working in this area.
Janet?
Yes, I could go ahead. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for having us on your show this morning. We've been working since 2009, actually, in Belize City, and we've been working with all volunteers, of course. Nobody paid here. And then we started off with about at least 100 people. And then, of course, life gets busy for everybody, and then we start to slack off.
Yeah.
But we are still going, and present we have at least 35 volunteers doing home-based, along with myself and Dr. Yacab and other doctors and non-medical persons.
Okay. And for the benefit of some of our viewers who may not be that familiar with what exactly we're talking about, can you give us a little breakdown of what the work that you all do is and what exactly we're talking about when we speak about hospice and palliative care?
Sure. Palliative care, well, I think we have to define palliative care. It's a specialized care that we give to improve quality of life. That's the objective of treatment, improve quality of life for life-threatening illnesses. Now, when we take into consideration the life-threatening illnesses, most persons may think about cancer, but it goes much more deeper than that. It includes other conditions, for example, congestive heart failure, COPD, dementia, all of those conditions without thinking on the intensity that may impact quality of life on a patient. So what we generally do in this setting is improve their symptoms, improve their suffering. And it goes much more than this physical needs. We're actively involved to give those patients the support they need spiritually and psychosocially too. So the hospice, the foundation in itself has been actively involved in giving those services to the patient and partnering with different sectors in order for us to deliver it to most of our patients.
Yeah. Now, you know, this is not easy work. What motivates you to want to be involved in the Palliative Care Foundation?
I mean, personally, I think that just when a baby's born, they're born with dignity, and just as we are having closure with this cycle, we also have to go with dignity. Yeah. So for me, I think that's what motivates me, because what I've been noticing and what I've experienced is that once a patient has a condition where medically we cannot cure, sometimes they feel alone, and sometimes they might feel, well, we don't have anything else to offer the patient. Yeah. What I try to do, and it motivates me, it's not abandon the patient. Yes, we may not be able to cure, but we can certainly comfort and guide the patient throughout the journey. Sometimes the patient needs that support, and I don't think they need it sometimes. They always need that support. Yeah. So it's important for us to be able to offer those services, to let the patient have that closure in their different relationships, prepare the patient as much as we can, even though we know that no one is prepared for what is coming. And the other part is also because I'm actively involved in cancer care, as you may be aware, we're shifting that point of view that palliative care and hospice is only for end-of-life care. It's not like that. Suffering for patients is evident since diagnosis. So the term in itself is getting the patients, since at the moment we have first contact with them, we determine their needs and we start working on them so that they could actively be prepared and take decisions, if you may.
And thank you for adding that. I did want to note that you are in fact an oncologist here in Belize. You work at the KHMH, and so you are aware of people who are diagnosed with cancer, whether it's at the point where it can be treated, or where there's no treatment that you can offer. Is it that this foundation steps in because there is a lack of family support, or is it supporting kind of the entire family through this journey?
No, the foundation steps in for multiple purposes. One, there was a couple of years ago, as Janet correctly mentioned, there was that need. I mean, our founder, Dr. Thompson, when she came in, she was noticing that there was a lot of patients who were undergoing suffering, pain, and there were no services for patients. So the group started helping with those symptoms, but I mean, it's much more than that. Why do I say this? We're trying to actively raise awareness as to the importance of palliative care, because palliative care is a human right. I mean, endorsed by the World Health Organization, palliative care is important as part of universal health coverage. So it's something that has to be embedded in the system. Mm-hmm. So the foundation in itself helps promote awareness, and at the same time is offering the services and training to the different sectors within our society. And at the same time, we're actively involved with the patient through their entire journey.
And also, I guess, to give us a bit more context or something, Janet, perhaps you can like describe perhaps like what a typical day is, or like when you're volunteering and working with patients who require this type of care.
Yeah, sure. We have some walk-ins, or most of our patients are referral from Carl Hushner or other clinics that we had worked with. And a typical day would be hectic, I'm telling you, because of lack of volunteers. And we don't have enough finance and resources, human resources, and other equipment that we need to comfort our patients. So we try to lobby with other government organizations like Women's Department, Human Services, and other different non-government organizations. It's hard when because we are trying to do and build the awareness in our society. It's a new thing, even though we've been since 2009, it's still not a real established thing, hospice and palliative care in Belize. So it's kind of hectic when there are people that need the kind of service, and typically, there are only so much we could do. So we step in and we ask like pastors and priests who have the different denomination where the patient go to. So we try to seek help, because for me and Dr. Yacab and Dr. Thompson, Marlene, and the other doctors that we have here, and a few volunteers since we started out this year, it's kind of hard when most of the time it's work in progress when people don't want to accept what is happening. So a typical day will be, we have to start off with definitely a prayer to ask God to give us the Holy Spirit, because our organization is based on the care of what Christ has done for humanity, and he commands us to do the same. And so with that, we try to comfort our patient and their families, since it's a holistic care that we are trying to give them. And it's definitely hard when sometimes the loved ones don't want to say enough is enough and give their loved one what they actually needed. It's not what we want, it's what they want. So the agenda, when we make the agenda, we don't come with our agenda, my agenda or Dr. Yacab's agenda or the hospice agenda. We want to do the plan and care for the patient and their family, so we go with their agenda, whatever it may be, and we give them goals and plans at a different time and see how that will work out. How we don't want to discourage anybody about their beliefs or tradition or custom. So we do a plan and we work towards that. But in honesty, when people referred and come into our office, we definitely have more than 5-6 family members seeking help, whether it's for pain management, pampers, food, or just literally information of what they could expect with their loved one when that time comes. So that's basically what our part do, besides giving them. Marlene?
Sorry, I was saying there's a delay, that's why, I'm sorry. So you offer both kind of comfort and psychological support, helping them with the acceptance of end of life, but it's also, when you talk about the dignity part, it's about proper health care, and even sometimes I know you offer pain management, like medication to reduce whatever pain they may be experiencing right through to the very end. If you're a volunteer organization, how do you pay for the resources that you need?
We liaise with different organizations. We liaise with different organizations. For example, some of the supplies, as Janet mentioned, we get them through donations. And I mean, that's limited based on what we may have, what we may get, especially the pampers, beds, sometimes oxygen concentrators. And it depends on different type of materials. Now, when it comes to medication, we partner along with the Ministry of Health and MOH to help us make supply pain medications and other drugs considered as necessary for patients receiving palliative care. And there's also this partnership where we're actually giving medical attention to the patients at the home as part of the home-based care program. So we've been growing slowly, but I think we're doing the right steps in liaising with the different organizations and stakeholders.
How has COVID impacted your work? I know there are students who would typically volunteer. They're not at school, so maybe they're not volunteering. And how do you go into homes given the COVID-19 context?
Okay, I go into the home, so let me jump on that. When COVID just started and they started with the regulations and to stay home and stuff like that, we tried to do most of our consultation through the phone or WhatsApp or whatever means the patient may have. If we cannot accommodate them through WhatsApp or Zoom or calls, we would call them and tell them we are coming to do a home visit. Bear in mind that everybody in the home has to be clean to their best, and everybody has to wear masks, and we do the same, and limited amount of family members in the room depending on the size of the room. And we still not continue that, but now we see most patients at home now since I think September, October. We are going into the homes and to limit them from going into Karl Hushner. So with seeing the patients, that's okay. We try to call them 2 days before, telling them we are coming and what we want them to do to prepare for when we come. To do the
and
home
volunteers?
Visit. With the volunteers and the students that comes in, with the volunteers, especially students, depending on what we want them to do, I will drop off the stuff at their home. If I want filing to be done or anything on data to be done, I email them, I send it to them, they log it in, send it back to me. the ones that we had couple volunteers during August, September. They came, but we wanted to sanitize the place, do stock taking, inventory cleaning to do our new financial year. They came in, we do it 2 at a time, one into the back, one at the front. And they 2 hours, that's it for whatever day they could come, and then we sign off their community service, and that's it for them. That's for students though. So we try to accommodate them because we sure do need the help, because we run by volunteers, we don't pay anybody, so it's when you are available to come. Yeah. And then for the senior volunteers that do most of the praying and the psychosocial, and some people do music therapy, we try to do it by phone. Most patients, of course, don't like the phone thing. They want to see you in person. So we ask the volunteers to call ahead of time so that they could make arrangement for when they could have the 15 minutes or half an hour to do their music therapy or prayer time or whatever the patient feel the need of that at that time.
So, as you're trying to recruit more volunteers, a lot of people are really uncomfortable with death or dying. And so they may hear of the work that you do and say, oh, well, I don't know if I could handle that. That's not for me. From your perspective, what about the experience makes you compelled to continue doing this type of work? Let's start with you, Dr. Yacab.
Oh, I say that, in terms of the volunteer part, there are different roles that they could play. We can't really fit a cap for each and every one. However, when a person is volunteering, the first shock will always be the first visit, but we're also having constant training and education so that they start getting, they start sharing those experiences. And we've had volunteers that they go in not knowing what to expect, but after continuing with the visits and seeing the progress that we're having in helping that patient take adequate decisions and giving them comfort, they do mention that it changes their life completely. And it makes, me personally as a volunteer, start recognizing that time is essential and that we have to live life at its best, because we don't know what may happen, and we have to be doing our closures and amends and be sometimes at peace with God. That's why I think that will be from my part.
Yeah. And for you, Janet? Is she still there? Janet, we may have lost Janet on the call. Yeah.
I think we lost her.
All right. So, Dr. Yacab, what type of volunteers do you need? I know it's a recruitment drive. You're always welcoming additional donations. As you all clearly said, the entire group is doing this on a voluntary basis. So, tell us what you need.
We need every type of volunteer. As you mentioned, we welcome everyone. As Janet had mentioned, we need sometimes help with the office, but we also need that support, that social support for patients. And even if it's, right now with the whole coronavirus contingency plan, even if it's a call of support, I know it's not the best strategy that we may have wanted, but we're keeping that in place. So we need volunteers to help us give that emotional support to patients. We need volunteers in the form of, if you're able to donate towards the foundation so that we could continue acquiring materials that we generally give for our patients, especially in the form of Pampers, gauzes, little things like that. And also volunteers from other organizations. We're actively being involved with pastors and priests, and we're actually getting volunteers from their areas, from the different denominations, for helping us.
Yeah.
And also, I have to mention, and volunteers in the different areas of Belize, because we've grown slowly, but we've managed to develop our system here at Belize City. But we're still limited as to the palliative care services offered in the rest of the country.
Yeah, yeah. All right, and how do people get in touch with you guys if they do want to volunteer or support?
We do have a Facebook page that could be found through Facebook as Belize Hospice and Palliative Care Foundation. They're very active. You could send some message, or you could contact a telephone number, for example, 631-2244, to get in contact with us. And we're open there from 8 till 4 p.m. at the foundation. However, we're open to answering calls at any time of the day.
All right.
And as we close off this conversation, just because we're almost running out of time, Dr. Yacab, do you want to leave our viewers with any final thoughts or messages that you want to leave with them?
Yes. Every patient has a basic right, and one of those rights is access to palliative care, pain management, and alleviation of suffering as we go throughout their different journeys for whichever medical condition or life-threatening illnesses they may have. So palliative care is necessary for everyone for every patient at a stage in time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dr. Yacab, thank you so much for joining us and teaching us a little bit more about the work that you do. We definitely do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. And with that, we are going to be taking our final break. And when we come back, we are going to have our wrap-up. So please stay tuned.